YUNKJunk!
Hey everybody, welcome to Tubby Talk, the show where we talk with the owners of Tubby Robot Ice Cream Factory.
Or at least half of them.
At least half of them. And where we talk about video games and things of video game culture, which is kind of what I wanted to get into today. I remember way back when my favorite TV shows were Nintendo-themed television shows and cartoons. Yes. Do you remember this golden age?
I do. Yeah, I watched them all like crazy. And you go back and you look, there actually weren't that many episodes of a lot of the big shows.
You're right. You're right. It was like less than 12.
Yeah, and we just watched them on repeat.
We did.
And I think the biggest one to come out, it's probably the first year mine, is the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, right?
That's exactly right. So Super Mario Brothers Super Show was the one that had live action elements, right?
Yeah. So
this was Deke's first foray into video game based TV, and Deke made a lot. They made a lot of everything, but the Super Mario Brothers Super Show came out and I believe was about Mario 2.
I think
or was it about Mario 1?
I think it started Mario 1, but you know what? You bring an excellent point.
Yeah.
And we see on the screen now, we got, this is the live action segment with Captain Lou Albano, former wrestling star.
R.I.P. Wonderful man.
Yes.
And the guy who played Luigi, who was also great. I don't remember his name.
Unfortunately, both are dead.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But, I enjoyed this stuff, but I always was like, all right, give me the cartoons. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you personally. I was more of a cartoon guy.
That speaks to your character, though, because you're also I don't care about the story, let me play the game.
Yeah.
Type person, so it's very similar. But yes, I mean, I wonder why they did this. Was it a cost saving? It couldn't have did it save money to do the live action stuff so they didn't have to have as much animation created overseas, which definitely, this is not the best animation ever seen, but it meant the world to me.
Yeah. No, I think that is it. Like the variety show gives them a lot more play with the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Actually the set here, I actually really like the set.
Yeah.
It's like they're working out of a subway /sewer.
That's true.
It really leaned in that whole, like, hey, we're from Brooklyn sort of thing, which I liked.
The thing I loved about this show, I guess more in retrospect than at the time, was that this is where a lot of the plumbing elements came from. Like, that are kind of in our brain of, like, they use wrenches, they use pipe. They never did that in the games. But this show involved it. And what it also did during the live action parts is they used the video game sound effects. I think that's what made so much to me of, like, as they're doing a wrench or something, it's making like, it's making classic sounds. And the sounds changed because this, like you said, was based on Mario 1. The reason I think it's based on Mario 2 is because of the foursome. Because the Super Mario Brothers Super Show was more about Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Princess, who were the stars of Mario 2.
I think you're right. And it did pick a lot of the enemies from that. Like, you'd see Mouser, you'd see Shy Guys.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm just putting this together now. Yeah, you're right. But King Koopa was in it.
Yeah, King Koopa was in it. And they never mentioned Wart or Subcon or anything. And I always liked this version of Koopa. King Koopa. They called him King Koopa, which wasn't really what they called him anywhere else.
Yeah, is this where it came from?
I think it was, because in the instruction manual for Mario Brothers 1, it would be Bowser.
That's right.
King of the Koopa.
That's right. Boy, and I'm just looking at some of this now, and they used every trick in the book to do it cheaply.
Yeah.
Where just the way that there's these long shots that are clearly just taking the camera, moving it to the right on the, animation cell, which they used back in the day. And
there's voiceover.
Repeating shots.
There's voiceover this whole time, but they're not doing any lip sync.
That's right. Mario Brothers Super Show had a voiceover.
Oh, yeah. Well, so there's voices in it, but the thing is, like, on those long shots, they're not bothering to animate the mouths because that's expensive. That takes some time. You just put a voiceover's cheap.
Yeah.
As long as you're not animating to it.
I mean, yeah, this is where I remember Toad. This is where a lot of them got personalities, to be fair. They didn't have Mario Brothers didn't have personalities in the game.
Yeah.
Yet. So this is probably where we got a lot of our first thoughts of, like, oh, this is what they're like. The princess is kind of spunky. Toad's a maniac. Luigi's scared of things. And Mario will do anything no matter what, because, that's who his character is.
And as much as, like, I think now they look back at this, they're like, that's not canon. None of that's real. But they took a lot from it. Like, the voices Toad you're talking about, voice for Toad to this day, I think, is inspired directly from this cartoon first.
I mean, you can take
Scratchy,
it further.
high-pitched.
Considering that now canon Mario is the movie.
Yeah.
That is a canon part. It was made by Nintendo. There are elements from this show literally in it.
Yes.
The van, the song.
The song is directly
From the cartoon. So, I mean, it did inspire a lot. But the thing that was amazing about the Mario Bros. Super Show to me is its evolution into the other shows that it became when games came out.
Yeah.
So Super Mario Brothers Super Show was very Mario 2-esque, definitely. But it also had some original Mario elements too. And I'm curious how long that show, one season. So the Super Mario Brothers Super Show was one season. I'll get back on the point. Season 2 of this show was The Book of Mario 3.
Yes.
So immediately a follow-up season to this, Dylan, if you want to pick it up, it's called The Book of Mario, is the exact same animation team. It's still Deke, but they've updated it to be more in line with the game Mario 3 in the bad guys and in
Mario 3.
What was in there. It was incredible.
Yeah, and they still use the same theme song, I'm pretty sure, but they added a couple of things. And what's interesting, they call it the Book of Mario.
Book of Mario 3, Dylan. Sorry, Paper Mario's
really?
getting in our way.
I don't remember being called the Book of Mario, but
there it is. The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3.
Yeah, so it's the Adventures.
Oh, this is one of my favorites. Sneaky Lying Ninja Koopas.
Well, episode 1, it's the first one ever. Oh, so you see, yeah, that's it. Oh, I didn't even start with the map. Come on. See, and the thing is, like, as a kid, you're just like, oh, I get that reference, like everything.
Maybe that's what it was when they put actual video game elements in it, and not animated pieces, but pieces of the game, like the sound effects, like I mentioned earlier. It was, it let you know, like, you're part of this, like you were part of a club, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it felt like you were in on something, and these people got it. Oh, that's the noise Mario makes when he jumps on something. Like,
do you think there was? How intense do you think like marketers were in the creation of this show? Obviously, this is designed to assist in sales of the video game, but it's not like it was horribly made. It's not like not a lot of money went in, but I think imagination was there and it held our attention. I truly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it might be hard to go back to now. Like our standards might have risen. I'd like to think they rose a little bit.
Probably, but did you just see our reaction a second ago when we saw the curtain from Mario 3?
Just we were living soy boy memes right there.
We were. We are a couple of soy boys. But even like right there, the fact that the Koopa kids, which went through, that is a crazy YouTube rabbit hole to go down, and that they were his children, then now they're not his children, but maybe they were in the show. A whole bunch of craziness. But they were all introduced in Mario 3.
Yes.
Where you had to fight each of them at the end, and they looked very similar to that. And even episode 1, he's got a magic rod. What happened at the end of every level of Mario 3 when you beat a boss?
The magic rod comes, Mario gets it, and he transforms the king back into a human or mushroom person.
Like that guy.
Yeah. A very tall mushroom person.
Very tall. So, and this wasn't the only transformation. This might have been my favorite rendition of the show, because I loved that in this version of the show, they brought attention to the treasure chest, which was the power-ups. And I'm a sucker for power-ups. Yeah. And clearly, so are the people writing the show of like, all right, episode 1's going to be about the Fire Flower. Episode 2 is going to be about the Starman. And when they got one, it would go into like a musical number, right?
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? All the voices, I thought the voice acting in this was actually done pretty well. Like, I can pull all of them up by memory. I'm like, oh yeah, all 4 of the main cast, even Bowser, King Koopa.
Yeah, Bowser's voice actor, I think was a guy named like Elvis something, but he was huge in the 80s and 90s. He was this old guy who had this like raspy voice. You know him if you're our age. You like saw him in episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark and like just random shows that were on. If you ever saw the movie Problem Child,
yes,
he's an old man in it. Nice. I don't know what old man, but I know he's in it because the voice is so distinct.
It's funny. It's hard not to just watch this. It's made like to grab our attention, and it was when we were kids, obviously.
Yeah,
it still does.
Yeah, but I mean,
the sun is coming at them,
which happens in Mario 3.
There's music blocks all over the place. Look at that.
That's beautiful. That is so Mario 3. I mean, to be fair, they had it's not like they came up with this and then the game came out of it.
Yeah.
All of the love and imagination and things that we were already in love with, Shigeru Miyamoto and team made. and we were already addicted there. This was like a cherry on top of a delicious sundae,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, it was something fun to watch that, when you weren't playing the game, you could think about the game some more.
Mm-hmm. And then if you were like me, you would then draw the game.
Yes.
And draw how you go the game, and you would take inspiration from things like this. Of like, now they fly over this using their P-wing, raccoon tail.
So you did that too. You would draw
Yes.
like adventures.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and level layouts, and yeah, that was really fun.
It was. Now, I will argue that the next iteration of this, and, good job, animation teams, for going with, as Mario changed, we will change. Because there was another and final version of this, which was Super Mario World, which had the best freaking
It had a great theme song.
ever.
It was like this Caribbean sort of calypso sounding song. It was very good.
Dude, Super Mario World.
Yeah.
Yes. We're watching the intro right now. And bam, that's the big difference is this was a Yoshi-centric show, and we are now with cave people because we're in Dino Land.
Yeah.
I would love the episode between.
Well, and it's weird too because it's not like there were really cave people in Mario World, the game. They're just
No.
like, it's Dinosaur Land.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who did the animation were like, Dinosaur Land must have cavemen, right? Like, it's prehistoric.
Well, I would also say this is where we took a left turn as well. In that, great that Yoshi's there, super cool, and now we have the wing. And there is an episode of this show where like Mario's in trouble and he's yelling to Luigi to get the star. I still have it in my. It's like, get the star, Luigi, get the star, and he does it the last minute and saves everybody. So there's some moments, but also there's random extras. And if you know anything about me when it comes to nerd culture, it's like, don't add anything. Just give me exactly what's there. In this, they unfortunately added new characters.
Mm-hmm.
One being a super annoying caveman boy named Uktar.
Yes. Very forgettable. And honestly, in this, I feel like Yoshi was the weakest character as well. 'Cause
Literally, he was
sort
a
of-
baby.
Yeah, he was a baby. He was annoying.
Yeah.
And like, I loved Yoshi. Everyone loves Yoshi, but like in the show, I was just kind of like, yeah, stop talking, Yoshi. Just, yeah.
Here, Dylan, actually go back and go to that Mama Luigi. It's right in the middle there at the bottom, 13. This specifically was where it was the most annoying. Just go ahead like somewhere in the middle because they actually show Yoshi as like an infant. Yeah, right there.
Okay.
Now, what I liked about this is part of the game.
It is.
But yeah, this is where it went a little too far with the baby stuff, I think. Did I watch every episode? Yup.
Yeah. And I mean, by the time this came out, I was maybe 10 or 11. And it gets to that age where you're like, well, maybe I got other things to do. I did not have anything else to do. No.
I got to take my big wheel elsewhere. But you know what? Also, there's an animation dip here for sure.
Yeah, this looks way worse than the last one.
But also, I think it goes back to, we've talked about this before. Super Mario World came out so fast after Mario 3 with a console generation jump. I'm sure it was just hard. I'm sure it was difficult. But yeah, I think this is the weakest version of it in both animation and in story.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why they put in, you know what it probably was? They probably just had to make this before the game came out.
And they didn't know.
They didn't know.
Cavemen, sure.
Yeah. Okay, there's dinosaurs. What do we do?
Yeah.
First of all, add an annoying kid who's always in trouble and has a name. Yeah. I don't know, Uktar. We're in the writer's room. Which of the three was your favorite of the Mario Bros trilogy?
Well,
show?
As we're talking, I think one of the first two, but I really enjoyed, and the first one, there was a component of it that happened one day a week.
Yeah.
It was on Fridays. Instead of showing a Mario cartoon, it was the Zelda cartoon. You remember that?
That's exactly where I wanted to go.
Monday through Thursday was Mario Brothers, but the special day, Friday, was the Legend of Zelda.
YouTube chapter marker, Zelda.
Yeah. And that made it feel special. Just the fact like this only happens on Fridays, even though like it was syndicated and you watch the same thing every week. Didn't matter. Like I thought, oh, it's Friday, Zelda Day.
Exactly. Yes. And that was so interesting because it was like just this subtle push. Because if you remember, the Zelda was also in the Nintendo cereal.
Yes.
Because, you're thinking it's Mario Bros. Cereal. It's not. It was the Nintendo cereal system.
Exactly right.
NCS. Yeah. And in it was also Zelda. So clearly they had designs. And it had to just be because it's a Miyamoto John. Did he have that kind of pull back then?
I don't think so. I think it was
so
just more
either.
like Nintendo's like, we're marketing, getting more properties out there.
But what did they do? They did something real interesting with giving Link a catchphrase.
Oh, yeah. So everyone on the internet knows that Link's catchphrase in this is, excuse me, princess.
Which is based off of the Steve Martin jokes from 12 years earlier.
And if you want to get annoyed, you watch a supercut where they have every excuse me, princess in a row. And it gets old really fast.
Let's do that now. No.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
But, there was something like this show is cheesy.
Look at how short that What? That is the shortest nightshirt I've ever seen. Why is there a slit in the side?
Well, it's kind of...
Is he wearing pants?
It's kind of what he wore, though. Like, Link always had a tunic. It wasn't that short, but he's wearing a nightgown.
Yeah, Princess Zelda looks much more appropriate.
Yes.
But also, interesting thing, they incorporated Zelda. Because the game, The Legend of Zelda, is you see Zelda at the end, and she's the quest. But all of the accessory media, for some reason, put her front and center as like a main character, which they did in this.
And it made it more interesting. I do think, like, if it was just a solo person going on an adventure, like, there's not a dialogue.
That's true.
I mean, they made it a comedy, palatable for kids. But the thing is, I think a lot of this was they were trying to basically push the Zelda into the American audience because this is a new type of game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Zelda came out. It actually came out on the Famicom disk system in Japan. It wasn't ever on a cartridge.
Yep.
So you had to go to a store with the floppy disk and load up Zelda, buy it, and you took it home and you played it like that.
What?
That's how the disk system worked in there. So it was the only way they could save things. They didn't have battery backups in the cartridges.
Yeah.
So it wrote to the disk. It read from the disk. So
it was a gold cartridge.
It was a gold cartridge here once it came out. But they were like, hey, this is a weird game for Americans. We don't know if they're going to take to it. It might be over their heads.
Wow.
We're going to go. That's why it had a gold cartridge. That's why they tried to introduce it as part of the Mario series. They were like, hey, we're going to, a spoonful of sugar, help that medicine go down. Maybe you'll get into this fantasy thing.
Yeah.
And it worked. Like, we were into Zelda. We were like, oh, man, Zelda.
Oh, we really were. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so that actually makes sense. And it seems like they did it very intelligently of getting us hooked. I mean, because even the show itself is way deeper than the game. The game, the original Zelda, and I think that's why we all love Breath of the Wild so much, or what was the one before that? No, Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild.
Was that you're a boy who's been tasked with this quest, and we're giving you no other information, but here's a sword.
Yeah.
And the show kind of falls along with that, right? Like, he is just a guy going through adventures trying to figure things out, and he is just a kid. The original Link is a boy. He's not a man.
Yeah.
Even though we all thought he was when Ocarina of Time came out. That was the first time we saw an adult who was 17.
Yes.
By the way, he wasn't a full-grown man, and he never has been. I don't even think, well, maybe Twilight Princess, but
this establishes some things like he lives in the castle, right? There's a king. There's not just princess, and the Triforce is this physical thing that just sits there. This is stuff that wasn't in the game or the extended lore from the game. It's just like they kind of made it up.
And they did interesting things with Ganondorf too. Like, he is a pig monster, but it's not like he looks like King Koopa. Like, no, the monsters in this, they definitely drew a little more intense as the game was a little more intense.
This is the more realistic, scarier, darker Nintendo.
Yes.
Yeah, excuse me.
It wasn't. Excuse me. But.
and it's still very kiddie in that, like, nothing dies in this. When you shoot someone with the sword, they go to Shadow Dimension, or it's...
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, it was like a giant bottle that holds the souls of all the monsters.
That is pretty funny. I don't recall that one as much. These pants, this shirt is...
This is really bugging you.
Short. I don't know if this is appropriate for children. But yeah, this whole thing is that, the thing that's in this is that clearly Link has a crush on Princess Zelda, and she is not reciprocating.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes she does.
Well, or see, this is the giant bottle that has all the souls in it. So the enemies he just defeated,
they get sent back here.
Yeah, and he can resurrect them from it, and he himself goes there when he gets, Ganon dies in this fairly frequently.
Yeah.
Death is just like a temporary, like, that's annoying sort of thing for these guys.
I definitely get like Thundercats vibes off of this show.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Mario was its own thing, but I think when they were making the Zelda, you're probably right. It's that we were America. We didn't understand. What do you mean? You're not going to tell me any story. It's just, here's a sword. Go have fun.
Yep.
So they had to kind of develop one. And I think they definitely took some inspiration from other cartoons during that time.
Definitely.
So the third show in the trifecta of these, I would say, was Captain N Game Master.
Yeah.
This was an interesting idea.
It was.
And I believe this also had a live action element.
I don't remember that. There's a little bit.
I feel like him and the dog were live action.
I think in like the very beginning of the first episode, there was some live action stuff with him, or he was in promos. I don't think it was part of the show, but you might be right. I think maybe.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. So maybe in the beginning of the episode, he's a real kid in the real world, and then he goes into the Nintendo world,
which is called Videoland.
Videoland,
where he gets kind of stuck. And this was definitely an amalgam of lots of different things and ideas. I have no idea how they chose these characters. It's kind of like The Leftovers. Now, these are all huge games, but the iterations of these games, the characterization of the people that they use in Captain N is nonsense. This is the worst one.
This made you angry as a kid.
This made me angry as a kid. There we go. So, but we have, I think his name's Kevin, and he's got a Letterman jacket with an N. He's got a cool dog.
Dog's named Duke.
And they get sucked into, this is perfect. They get sucked right into Videoland.
Videoland.
Because I think them in there were like calling out for a hero. I don't remember that.
I don't remember the CG thing. That was weird.
But they get pulled in, and then we have this super cool kid who had a zapper.
Yeah.
I'm convinced this entire show was just an ad for the zapper.
Well, that zapper came with the system.
It did.
You didn't have to buy another one.
Kevin in Videoland, yeah. I remember my older cousin Kevin, I learned about all Nintendo from him, so I was like convinced that he was Captain N, the Game Master.
And they made up characters, so Captain N's an original character, like not from a video game. Princess Lana is also made up.
That one I don't understand.
They made her up for the show.
Which is very weird because they had, but it had to be just because of Zelda was taken, or else they would have. Is there another princess?
There's a bunch of other princesses, but
in any of this media,
prominent.
I don't know. I don't think there were any really.
I mean, if you're going like Kid Icarus, there's the Lady Palutena.
Yeah, they could have done Palutena. Was she around in the original?
She was in the original, but not as much. Wasn't as deeply characterized as she was later on.
So essentially, this show, the main antagonist was Mother Brain from the Metroid series, and I don't think there's any other Metroid element in the show.
That's a good point. There's no Samus. I don't remember ever seeing Samus.
There is King Hippo from Punch-Out, which is an interesting addition.
Yeah.
Palette swapped for some reason. Yes. And then there is just an eggplant wizard who was not the bad guy in Kid Icarus. He was just an enemy in Kid Icarus,
he was
right?
An enemy. He was a very annoying enemy, though, because he would turn you into an eggplant. Kid Icarus is a weird game.
Kid Icarus is a weird game. But I was so happy that when they did that resurgence on, I think it was Nintendo DS.
Yes.
That one was
3DS.
Wonderful. That was so much fun to play. And I was like, all right, I'm back.
Kid Icarus Uprising.
And then there was a sequel, too.
No, that was the only one. They never made a sequel to Uprising.
Are you sure that there's not a Kid Icarus for Switch?
Yes, there is not.
What?
Yeah.
So it's just Uprising, and then he's been hanging out in Smash Brothers.
Yep.
Weird.
So a lot of people are like, oh, when are you? Some people just want the port of Uprising to Switch. They're like, I just want to play it. And no, it's just that. So this one, I imagine, made you the angriest.
Now, as an adult man,
okay.
Yes, it does. At the time, Mega Man made me the angriest.
Oh, yeah.
But let's get into it. So we have Kid Icarus. I'm not sure if they call him Pit in this.
No, they think they refer to him as Kid Icarus. His name is not Pit, which was also wrong.
Yeah. Get out of here, Kid Icarus. But Kid Icarus, Simon Belmont.
Yes.
But a cartoonish version. That game is not presented for children at all. So I have no idea what he's doing here at all. Like, why? Like, vampire killer?
Castlevania is not necessarily like an adult game, though. Like, it's not like there's gore.
At the time, it might have been.
It wasn't. No, it's not like there's... It was, you blip out enemies with your whip, like any other game.
Diddly diddly doo. That's all I remember is dying all the time. And but yes, that is not.
Yeah, Simon Belmont is this. He's like an explorer he's basically Gaston from Beauty and the Beast.
He is.
But I'm the best.
No one kills like Gaston. No one thrills.
Yeah.
And then, hey, hubba hubba. I miss the 80s because they used to just... I'm a guy. That's a cute girl. I can't speak. That was like literally, I've lived that moment so many times. So it was, I don't know. I like these two as a pairing. There was like a flirtation that was fun as a kid, like very much like a Corey Topanga type of flirtation.
It was
like,
a little more reciprocal than the Zelda Link one.
Well, it was. It was an actual, both of them liked each other.
Yeah.
But they never went all the way. The last member that made me the angriest obviously was, so right there he shows his zapper.
Yeah.
And doesn't realize it can actually do things. And this is where we understand the power of Captain N, that his zapper can destroy anything. Very interesting. This is a gun show.
Yes, you should buy guns. Kids,
guns.
Buy guns.
They work in video games. And you can't go home.
See, the coolest part, I don't know if they're gonna show it, but his belt I thought was the coolest thing in the world. Because his belt had an NES gamepad on it.
I'm buying that belt.
And basically whatever he pressed on it, his body would do. So if he pressed left and right on it, he would phase shift to the left and the right. It was so cool.
But what I thought was more interesting than that, and it happens in every single episode, is Kevin needs a time to think about how to solve every solution. What does he do? Pause button.
Yes.
Pause button. And he can stop time and think about what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And then, if Steve were here, he would jump on this right away. But the biggest flaw of this show is Mega Man. Where did they get the concept of the voice? Why is he green? Nothing about Mega Man makes sense. Why does he say Mega Mega? There's no utterance of Dr. Light.
No, he's kind of like a caveman, but he's a robot.
Pretty much.
Like Ooga Booga, and says like Mega Mega. Ah. And they did a similar annoying thing with Kid Icarus, where he has to end everything with Icarus.
He did?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yes, it's very
Wait a
annoying.
minute. There were two people with like speaking issues?
Yes, two people. Two of the side characters.
Not issues, but you know what I mean.
He would add, we have to get out of here, Icarus. Like, it would,
what?
Yeah, it was bad. It was very bad.
Why do they have a cake?
But he added that, and so you didn't
Mega
want to hear
had Mega Mega. So that conversation is probably the worst thing a person can hear.
The worst thing. Don't listen to it. It's weird that he's green.
Yeah.
But they palette swapped a lot of these. Like, why is King Hippo blue? King Hippo looks like a corpse.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, weird ghoulish green thing.
And now Mega Man, I love the idea of him being in something, and like I like the size. Like, Mega Man should be like a little kid size.
He is regular Rockman.
Yes.
Not Mega Man X. So
he's got the visor over his eyes, and he talks annoying, and he's green.
But why do we remember it so much? Like, I remember Captain N. Literally, when we finished the last episode, I'm like, I want to talk about Captain N.
Yeah.
And other games of the ilk. But Captain N arguably was the toughest for everyone to get behind, because it was just like, make something with everybody else and just like put a kid in it.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. A lot of these are like third party. So like Konami is Castlevania, Capcom is Mega Man.
Good point.
Kid Icarus is a Nintendo game though. Metroid is a Nintendo game. Punch-Out's a Nintendo game. So they're pulling in some of those third party titles.
Is that Dr. Light?
I think it is.
Holy shit! And that's Roll.
Wow.
What?
Or do they call her Mega Girl in this? They might be like, this is Mega Girl. Because this is nonsense.
Why does Dr. Light have his head shaved? Oh no, Dr. Lightweight. That is wild. Okay, that's very interesting, because this is Who Framed Roger Rabbit of Nintendo games.
Yes. Only way worse.
Yeah.
I just watched it. Roger Rabbit is a national treasure.
That's my favorite movie of all time. Top tier. Absolutely.
It's really good.
Technical marvel. The story's great. It's a little more edgy than normal children's stuff, just like this show.
Now you got me thinking, though, like, why not make a modern movie of Captain N that is basically the Roger Rabbit for video games?
If you don't think it's coming, I mean, it's Mario made so much money that, Zelda got greenlit. That's officially coming. And if that crushes, you go Metroid after that. Somebody give that lady her due. We would all sign up for that. Space adventure? Come on. Yeah. And then you bring in Captain N, because you already got Mother Brain.
I mean,
and use the exact same Mother Brain.
Yeah, who talks like kind of like the plant in Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, got that kind of bassy voice, but very feminine. But
she would go up a lot. Like there was a lot of interesting voices going on.
Whoa, I like that. So that to me, those were kind of the big three of series: the Mario series, the Zelda series, and Captain N. But I wrote down there were some others, and that were very, very interesting. And the first one actually ties in with this, which is Mega Man had an animated cartoon show that was just Mega Man.
Wow.
And it was great. It was, a little lame, obviously, but it was an anime. But it was an American anime. And it had the same voice actor who would later play Goku. There it is right there. You can just show me the intro. And this was right in with the actual game itself. Like he's running, it's action-based.
The same logo as the game.
They went for it on this one. So I don't know who was in charge of this show, but this, I think, nailed it the best. I
didn't see this. And
you never saw this?
Was this on like network television?
CBS.
CBS? How did I not see this?
It wasn't on the same network as Super Mario Bros. Super Show, but when this would come on, it was so exciting.
Look how good the intro looks.
It had a weird time slot too, and it followed a great story. And everyone's in it who would be in it.
I'm just
Dr. Wily's in it. Everybody's Roll's in it.
I know the intro always
Rush is in it.
It always has better animation, but it's great.
It was incredible. It was definitely made overseas. I know there's a huge following of this show. People loved this show. There's some awkward things.
It's funny. It goes Mega Man 1, 2, and 3. I'm seeing elements from.
It does, yeah. The Proto Man element was a big deal. But I'm glad you brought that up because they keep in line with a lot. And there's Robot Masters and new ones show up. But what I want you to do, Dylan, is look up Mega Man animated cartoon and then at the end just write Mega Man X. This was the coolest thing I ever saw because Mega Man X transports into this world. Mega Man meets X right at the top. Same show, Mega Man show. Look at that. Dr. Wily. Yeah. Just kind of come forward quite a bit.
Skull motif on everything is a must.
Skull motif. But the Super Nintendo game comes out. Who arrives? Vile from Mega Man X comes to this world. This is the only crossover that it ever happened in.
Wow.
This is what I craved a video game for. I want to see the end of Mega Man and the beginning of Mega Man X because everyone has to die in there. You know what I mean? All right, you can go forward a little bit.
Oh, and there's Spark Mandrill
in.
Which we could tell by his back.
Yeah, we could. That says a lot about us. So the idea is Mega Man is overpowered. Like he can't handle these robots from the future because they're from 21XX.
Yeah.
And Mega Man's from 20XX?
20XX, yeah.
We better get on. I guess they got to figure out that Tesla robot so that it can be here. But what happens is they are, of course, saved by Mega Man X. And when he shows up, that's the game that I was obsessing over at this time.
Yeah.
This show's probably out in probably 94, 95. And boom, here comes our hero. This was crazy to see as a kid. Because this is what you desperately wanted. And just look at how different they even animate him. Like Mega Man looks like classic Mega Man. He's a little too tall.
Yeah, a little too tall.
But X comes out like a badass. Look at this. Walking through an explosion. And the knees are different. Everything's different. He's got abs.
Oh, yeah.
And he looks like Mega Man X.
He's got abs.
Isn't that crazy that they would do that in this show? I mean, I think there's only 12 episodes of this too. A lot of shows just didn't make it very long. But like, I encourage you to watch some of this. It's wild.
You know what it reminds me of a lot is like the X-Men. They were like, oh, X-Men are cool. We love the classic X-Men. And then they get a portal to the future. And who do they get? They get Cable.
Yeah.
And Cable's like, I'm the cooler, more hardcore version of the X-Men. That's what Mega Man X is.
Organic virus.
Yeah. Yeah. Cable is Mega Man X.
The other thing that they did in the show that was very interesting is they seldom use the gun. But when they do, it's like a massive explosion instead of the normal pellet.
Yeah, he's just blowing up buildings.
Yeah. Well, I think here he's showing him how he can charge his Buster. But even regular Mega Man, it'll be this huge animation where he'll shoot like one of the lemons to steal a line from Ego Raptor. And it's like this massive explosion like that. And it's just like if you hit B button once.
Yeah.
But you were unfamiliar with the show?
No, yeah, I think I'd seen passing reference to it. I didn't know it was released in America. I assumed it was a Japanese only thing.
It was, and it had it was not Dr. Wily voiced, but Dr. Wily is German in this.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
We will take you down, Mega Man. And I remember the whole point of this show. That's where he introduced himself. The whole point of this show was that Dr. Wily was trying to get energy. Not a certain kind of energy, not solar. The whole thing was based around we need all the world's energy for no reason. They just needed energy.
It's like Energon cubes in Transformers.
Exactly.
Like we need the cubes. They're important. It's the MacGuffin.
Yeah.
But energy is such a broad MacGuffin. Mm-hmm. It's like we need water. And it's not like Mad Max. There's water everywhere, but we need it.
Yeah, because we need to have all of it for no reason. I'm sure it's because he wanted to build lots of robots and have everything. And I don't know if this show did it. I wish they did. And it might even be in this episode where he thinks of Zero. Because that's the whole big thing with Mega Man and Mega Man X is that Dr. Wily built Zero, the guy you look up to as Mega Man X, and it comes to this crazy story, but they never really connected it.
Yeah.
But I remember there's this game, Mega Man The Fighters.
Yes.
Mega Man The Fighters 2. If you beat it with Proto Man, you'll be in Dr. Wily's lab, and it'll show the schematics for Zero, like he's working on it. That's the only reference I really remember to it. But this was the coolest connection. I wish they did the Zero thing too, but I got what I got. This is still pretty amazing to get.
Yeah, we had the power battles we've had as a game on at Tubby. And we had Power Battle 2 as well, which these are arcade games. So not a lot of people played them because it was, you didn't see a lot of American arcades with the Mega Man fighting game in them. But they're fun. They're fun. I mean, they play just like Mega Man boss fights.
Dylan, can you go back about 5 seconds?
I like how X is like 2 feet taller than Mega Man.
Go back a little bit more. A little bit more. Right there. You notice that spelling is Sigma with a C? That's just one of those fun little translation things because it's always Sigma with an S in the games.
Yes.
So they did pretty good. They made him taller.
He's huge.
Yeah. So my only real criticism of this show is Mega Man should have been a little bit shorter, but it's a great show. You should watch it. It's
I gotta catch up with this, and I'll watch it with my kids because they're into the idea of Mega Man too. Yeah.
And there was also a follow-up series. Well, not really, but Mega Man Battle Network. We were too old for this.
Yeah.
But that was a long-running show that was on TV. Do you remember this?
I didn't watch the show, but I know it's based off of games that started on the Game Boy Advance.
That's right.
And it was a different style, like there was something with card battling and trading.
Yeah, it was during that time period where like you would play card games in video games, right? And it's like a certain type of strategy game that I'm sure is huge in Japan, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
They were all just re-released. That's cool.
Yeah, so these, the games that they were based on, which were on the GBA and the DS. And I played, I didn't play Battle Network. Oh, see, and it was like this grid-based thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, all right, it's not for me. I got other things to do. I have homework to do.
Yeah.
So I didn't play these. I didn't watch the show, but
I didn't either.
Style's cool
either, but I will say clearly, it was designed to be the Pokemon of Mega Man.
Yes.
And it did, and it had a fan base, and people did enjoy it. But that leads us into the behemoth, which is the Pokemon show.
Oh yeah,
Pokemon the animated series. That thing is still going. Ash
and
just finished his journey, but that's 30 years.
They're still getting
20 plus years.
20 viewers like every year is someone who's never seen Pokemon before, and they watch that show. It pulls them in, and I mean it was a huge gateway drug for everyone into this. I remember like my first exposure to Pokemon was actually they made a manga style comic based off of this in Nintendo Power.
Yep.
But it was just screen rips from the first episode of the anime.
Yeah, it was.
But it worked. It was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I watched the show, and I was like, all right, well, that's cool. I'll watch that, and I guess I'll get the game. Yeah.
Well, this thing. I mean, they went for it. Like I'm stumbling over my words because if you watch the show, this is definitely a top tier animation studio went for this thing, and they crushed it. Like people were obsessed over this game because of the cards and because of this show.
Yeah.
The fact that you can walk into any college right now and ask someone to sing you the entire Poke-Rap and they will says something.
Yeah, and these are people who did not grow up with it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like the TikTokification of this show too. But it was a sweet show. Like there was love in it. There was care, and there was this thing that somehow we were all obsessed about because, well, he's got to catch them all. I mean, I got to catch them all. And if I don't catch them all, who am I? Not a Pokemon master, right?
And it's interesting. I think this is really the first introduction of anime to a greater American audience. It was the first one that really caught on. Like before this, you could maybe see some like syndicated Dragon Ball Z on UPN sometimes, but it was like very niche. But then Pokemon came on. Everyone saw this.
You're right.
Like before this, like this is like very distinctly anime style. Like this feels like Japan, and
this was the breakthrough.
Yeah, and before this, people would be like, oh, well, Japanese style doesn't work in America.
Well, they called it Japanimation back then.
Yes.
Because we hadn't bought on to like how, yes, there were things like Fist of the North Star and Akira had come out, but they didn't hit with kids. This thing demolished with children.
Yeah, and all those things were sold on VHSs for like $60 a pop, imported. Like you had to be a super nerd to be into it. You paid so much for tapes. But this is for free on national television all the time.
Also pre-internet. So back then, like 1995 internet, maybe you'd see like an image of like something from Dragon Ball Z or a Pokemon that hadn't come out in the States yet. But you couldn't just look up and find information about this. It was just what was in my instruction manual, what was in Nintendo Power, what was on the show, which made it premium viewing because it was also not episodic. That was crazy for a show that was about video game characters, not to be syndication based. It was about, we're following one long story. We never had that.
No.
I can't think of anything else that we had then.
The more you talk about it, the more ambitious it sounds. And the fact that they pulled it off as well as they did is incredible.
Yeah.
And I can, remember that first season's like storyline pretty well.
Yeah.
And it really hugged the game like so closely. Like they talked about every Pokemon and their types and what they were good at and bad at. And they were very accurate. They listened to, you look at a Pokemon and it'll be like, this is its height. This is its weight.
Yes.
They paid attention to that.
I was just going to say that though, because this made you care about the Pokedex.
Yes.
Because the Pokedex was a character. That like explained everything. So just the obsession, it just built upon it. And that thing reinforced wanting to play the game better than I think anything I've ever seen. And you're right, it did introduce anime because it was that. Dragon Ball Z was the other one.
Yeah.
But Dragon Ball Z was not targeted towards a 7-year-old.
No.
It was targeted more towards like a 9-year-old. And that's a very distinct age difference. Because this was the hook. The only hook we had before this was probably Transformers.
Yeah.
But Transformers, there was such a gap between those that it's not the same kid getting hooked by both.
Back then, I feel like cartoons were seen as a completely different medium than they were in the 90s, right? Like in the 80s, it was like, some disposable. It was just made to sell toys. That's all it was there for.
I'm also wrong. Transformers is an American product.
Yes.
So that was more of an 80s classic cartoon similar to like Captain N.
Yeah.
You're right. This was the first anime for kids.
And it was after this, I feel like even though Dragon Ball came out earlier, this was a gateway drug to Dragon Ball. I agree. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm into this visual style. What else looks like this? What's this show?
Yeah.
Oh, so and it kind of softened people up to that. It is a very distinct visual style. And now in America, it's ubiquitous, but it wasn't in the early 90s.
You're right. It totally introduced that style of animation to, what are we, the West?
Yeah.
To the West.
If you want to call us that. But then you get like, then you go into your Yu-Gi-Ohs.
Yeah.
And into your, basically.
Oh, well, that's true. This thing spawned the idea of collectathon anime.
Yeah.
And collectathon games. And actually, I think a lot of things went in the reverse, right? Pokemon was game first, anime second. Then there were a bunch of animes, game second.
Yeah.
I don't know where Digimon fits in.
Well, Digimon's just a ripoff.
And it wasn't a game. It was just a thing.
Well, there were games.
Eventually, yeah, Digimon World, but it was just a Tamagotchi thing.
Yeah.
Like it was the boys' Tamagotchi when it was brought out.
And there's this stuff like
play whatever you want, but
Cardcaptor Sakura, which was basically the whole idea. It was a magical girl anime based on collecting cards, and it was based on a game. And that's, it really had that synergy going.
It's the cartoons though that make you obsessed about the collection, because I even want Ash to catch them all. Like I'm rooting. I'm on the team. I was in the theater. I saw it when we met. Who was that? Lugia?
Yeah.
Or Mewtwo, rather.
Well, Mewtwo was both. Well, Lugia was later. Yeah, that wasn't Gen 1.
But this thing spawned a movie.
Yes.
And it was a monster.
Yeah.
It was a monster.
Yeah, Pokemon, the first movie, is that what they called it? They re-released it later as that. I think it was Pokemon the movie. I like
the balls on that.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, we're going to make a ton of these. Here's Pokemon the first movie.
Yeah.
And they knocked it out of the park. Everyone went to see that. I was right in that age-wise where, and I'll have to ask my mom this, because when I would watch that show, the way it ended, she was like, you used to watch another show like this. And I wonder what it was. It might have been that weird anime that was about like the Knights of the Round Table that was on like, it was on some network. Basically, we all got obsessed with the shows that networks just bought cheaply from overseas and redubbed. That was our experience with them.
Yeah.
This was different. This was made with love.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely came into this with the American voice acting like at the forefront. Like, it all came out at the same time. Now, you know what? I'm sure Japan got it a little earlier than us back then, but now everything comes out at the same time.
Yeah, it's true.
Worldwide global release.
It's true. Well, I mean, but that was kind of fun in that weird internet era where you would be looking at like wasn't JavaScript, what were the website geosites, where you'd be looking at a weird GeoCities website that had like images of Pokemon anime stuff that we hadn't seen yet, but was already out. It was fun. You know, there was wonder, there was magic,
mystery in the world.
You know, but not all game series were treated with love. One I would like to bring up is Donkey Kong Country. Have you ever seen this thing?
So I've seen clips. I've never watched the full episode. It was definitely after my time. I love Donkey Kong Country, the game.
Way after my time too.
Yeah, but this was one of the earliest examples of like a CG full-on cartoon.
So it's Donkey Kong Country Crystal Coconut.
Crystal Coconut was the subtitle of the whole show?
I think so. Legend of the Crystal Coconut.
Oh, the top one.
Well, I mean, this is it.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So this is a specific episode.
Now, that is the right logo.
Yeah.
But then we go to a crazy place. This is not Donkey Kong. That is not Candy Kong. That is not Dixie Kong. That is not Diddy Kong. Diddy Kong's actually not bad.
Did you watch some of this?
Just briefly. I remember this was on when my family would go to church when I was like in high school.
Okay.
That was Funky Kong, by the way. And that's a Kong that they made just for the damn show.
Yeah.
Stop doing that. Don't introduce extra characters. Cranky Kong. But I remember we would go, I remember I would like come home and catch it. And this was, the network wasn't right either. It was on ABC Family, which was not a network for something like this. So it was in a very bizarre place. But this was a show that went insane. There was a show before this called Reboot that was like a full CG, but they played within the bounds of what they were doing. They tried some stuff here that just did not work. It is wildly weird. And I know Nintendo had no part of this.
Yeah, I get the feeling that this is more of a cheap corporate cash-in.
Definitely. But a weird cheap corporate cash-in because we were past Donkey Kong Country at this point. You know, we're well into N64 when this show came out, I think.
Yeah, and if that's true, that means that there's 3 Donkey Kong Countries on the SNES. And it would be a while until Donkey Kong 64 came out.
Yeah, I think this fit that hole between them. But it was just like, let's just go insane.
Yeah, look at these. These are holy smokes,
terrible character models.
Well, and the thing was, even this was still very unique at the time, right? Like you didn't see computer animation on television.
This is why.
Yeah,
this is why you didn't see it.
They're like, you know what? Let's go back to Reboot. Good with Reboot.
The problem here really, though, is just in the production, in the writing. There's not much tethering us to the games except for the characters themselves, but they all have weird ways of going about the world. I don't know who this was targeted to either because there's a lot of like UPN style humor in this, by which I mean like Sinbad was like on that and just like skirting the line. Candy looks crazy, like nothing like the Candy Kong we have, but none of that can hold the candles to the fact that in each one of these episodes, there was some sort of rap or R&B song in every episode. I love me a Disney movie and like a Disney song, but this was just so awkward and strange. And in every episode they went for it. And I'm like, who the hell was the music producer? And whose first chance was this?
I've seen some of the memes resulting from some of those songs. Yeah. So every episode had a song.
Every episode had a song.
In some ways.
I've only seen maybe 2 or 3, but.
It's an ambitious idea, right? Like, that is probably beyond what you have to do to make some cash-in like this work.
And I think that's the key word is cash-in. Like, I'm sure whoever did this was like, all right, we need a video game character who's cheap. All right, kids like songs, put songs in it. Yeah, he needs catchphrase. Everybody's got a catchphrase. Let's have him say banana slammer every time he punches someone.
Say that, huh? Wow, that's pretty bad.
The weirdest thing is They have animated butts.
There's a lot of butts in this show.
There's a ton of butts in this show. Look up some Donkey Kong Country butt memes. Just bananas. So this one was not treated very well.
Yeah.
There is one that I've heard people talk about, but I don't remember it. I don't know if it ever aired. I know there are clips of it, and that's Battletoads. Did you know there was a Battletoads
There was a
cartoon?
show, and it was, I think, pretty short-lived.
Yeah.
And I was a huge fan of Battletoads. It was like my favorite property in the NES. I was like, oh my God, Battletoads. And whenever the show was on, it was very brief. I barely got to see any. So I might have been the only kid trying to watch it.
But you knew it did air?
It did air.
It was on TV.
It was on TV, but not like regularly.
What do you mean?
Like, I saw it like once or twice on a Tuesday sometimes. And be like, okay, cool, Battletoads. They'd be like, we'll show it in a couple more Tuesdays.
Oh, I see. So it never really had a normal syndication. But this was obviously, hey, Ninja Turtles is making money. Let's try this. But this was weird.
Yeah. I mean, arguably, that's what Battletoads is in general. Like,
well, yeah, of course.
Battletoads is like, all right, we like green things that fight.
But this one was hard because like the lore of Battletoads involves like the Dark Queen, and the Dark Queen is like not for children. And they tried to make her work for children.
80s for children. It's fine.
I guess.
Dominatrixes were all over the place in the 80s. Every piece of media had an evil dominatrix. Come on.
It's true. Well, if you think, I mean, heavy metal and like things of that nature and all the stuff like that. I think this is the original episode. I think there was only one episode. I'm not sure if there was a series. But they tried to do some lore. That person doesn't exist. There's no princess.
There is.
There is?
Princess Angelica is, yeah.
What?
Yeah, she's
real. I thought we were trying to save Rash.
No, so in the first one, Pimple gets captured with Princess Angelica.
Oh.
Yeah.
This was also, there's the evil queen. Toned down a little bit.
Yeah, toned down actually a good amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No spikes on her, really.
Exactly. And definitely a softer look.
Yeah. But probably easier to draw.
Well, that's a good point. I always forget about stuff like that of like, why did they do that? Oh, because it was easier.
Yeah.
Because it was easier to do.
Like, we have to draw this a couple hundred times. We're going to make it simple.
But see, this is interesting in that this is where you get the lore. And this that is not in the, it must just be in the game manual where they mention it?
In the, at least in the Nintendo Power About It, there were comics about the lore. And this follows that pretty well, which was all about 3 normal kids who played a video game. And the video game sucked you into the world of Battletoads. And actually, they
I think they could command whether they were in it or out of it.
Oh,
or they get sucked in and permanently transformed.
It was more like esports. There was a show that was the Battletoads, and then they would jump into the game, become the Battletoads, and people would cheer them on, and they would win, and they were kind of superstars, but only in Toad form, and they'd come out and they'd be nerds.
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching him. He's getting thrown off of the basketball court because he's good.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
Because he's destroying. He couldn't play. But yeah, I mean, this was an interesting show, and this was one that I had often heard about but never seen, and obviously went back and kind of looked into it. And Battletoads lends itself well to a cartoon. I think, especially the current iteration, because the new Battletoads, I'm surprised that that's not also a piece of media.
Because the game itself is basically a cartoon series unto itself. Like, there's a lot of voice acting, a lot of cutscenes, and it's pretty funny.
Kind of like, not like Cuphead and that's beautiful animation, but in Cuphead and like you're playing a cartoon.
Yes.
You know, it's you can just do that now.
Yeah, that's just the thing you do.
Yeah.
No problem.
Man, classic nerd right there. I love it. Like, can I see your computer for a teensy bit? I'm just gonna go on to the interwebs. We've come a long way.
We really have.
Are there any other video game TV shows that you know, or any like recommendations?
I think we covered a lot of the big ones that occupy the largest parts of my brain.
Sure.
There are definitely more, but none I'd recommend.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting part. This is a time in our lives we all remember, but don't necessarily want to revisit.
yeah, and a lot of this is
more
like
than this podcast.
Part of me is like, oh, I want to rewatch them. Like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want that memory to stay there and be pure, and watching it will only crush it.
This is definitely the old, like, I'm going to watch this at 1.5 times speed.
Yes.
And just kind of get through it.
Yeah.
But there's elements that I enjoy. And I think this is why I love YouTube so much. YouTube is great for this kind of stuff because someone will compile all the parts you just want to see and remove all of the insane filler that used to be in shows like these.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I would love to give one recommendation of maybe a modern show or some sort of video game show. Dylan, can you just Google video game shows? Let's just look at a list here.
Well, I have a really good one.
Oh, good.
I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen the Netflix Castlevania series?
Oh my God, there it is.
There you
Yes.
go.
Netflix Castlevania. I can't remember the producer's name, but that is video game show done right, and that is a Belmont right there.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. The writing's so good. It's gory.
Beautiful.
And see, this is actually the sequel series. A new one just came out. I have yet to watch it. Yes, you got to watch it.
I think I watched the first 3 seasons. I think I watched all the ones with Trevor.
So yeah, this new one focuses on Richter.
Oh, that's great.
Takes
Richter
place-
from Castlevania 4?
Well, he's from Castlevania X, Rondo of Blood.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
The one that we didn't get on Nintendo?
Right.
Was it like a Neo Geo?
Castlevania X we got, but it was originally it was a TurboGrafx CD game. Yeah, Rondo of Blood.
This is a brilliant recommendation.
Yeah.
Castlevania on Netflix is awesome because this is a thing doing what I love. It takes the source material seriously. You know, whatever world it is, I don't care as cartoony as it is or strange, it takes it seriously. It's also an American anime. Yeah. So this is an American anime, and the producer of it is a guy that produced a crazy, bloody Power Rangers future show. If you could find it on YouTube, it's great. Saban had it taken down, but it had James Vanderbeek as an older, like Billy or something like that, and everyone was dead, and it was a bloodbath. And he went, I think from that, he got some notoriety and started being like, hey, maybe this is the guy to do these serious takes on games and stuff like this. But whoa, right there. Head smashing. I mean, this goes for it.
Yeah, this is...
I'm so glad you said this.
Don't watch it with kids. It is very bloody, lots of cursing, but it's good.
It's beautiful, too. Like, it's well done. You're invested in the characters. I'm really excited to watch this sequel series now. And it's bizarre. Like the lore of it is very, very weird. You have, you know, when you think of Castlevania, you think of a guy with a whip. And this does so much more. Yeah. It has the guy with the whip, which, thank you. Thank you for not removing the main part of the fucking show.
Yeah.
But it also has this magician and her whole backstory with essentially gypsies and things like that. It has this guy, Saint Germain, who's like traveled into looking for the doorway to hell to see his wife or something like that.
Yes.
And unlocks it.
And so it builds on the world of Castlevania and it adds so much. Characterization is great. Like all of, you have Trevor and Sypha. Mm-hmm. Their chemistry is so good in this.
It's a lot like Link and Zelda. No, I'm kidding.
So much better. And Alucard is in this. Is a great character as well.
Right.
And basically, like Alucard's like, hey guys, I want to kill my dad. Let's get together. And all the pathos involved in that is done so well. Like he's like, I have to kill my dad because basically the whole premise of the show, as you know, is Dracula falls in love with a human woman. They get married. He goes off on a trip. And the humans come and kill her. Mm-hmm. They're like, you are fraternizing with the devil. So they kill her. Dracula gets back. He's pissed. He goes nuts. And he's like, I'm going to kill all humans. So he goes on an epic quest to kill every human in the world. And then that's when basically Alucard's like, I got to stop you, Dad. I'm going to team up with some folks. And it's heavy.
It is, you know, and they give meaning to it. Like you said, pathos. Like Dracula is in a way justified of what he's doing. Of like his wife didn't do anything except love him. And he becomes a warmer, kinder person because of her. And then when she's taken away, it becomes the monster we all know and love. And they go for it. I mean, it's a great story. Everyone is conflicted. It's a very interesting place to put the Belmonts because Trevor's doing this because he has to, because this shit follows him around because he's a Belmont.
Yep.
Alucard has a mission, and then Sypha has a reason for being there as well. But it is interesting in that they set up like this giant story where Dracula's the main character, really. And then I would say Alucard, and then the other two are kind of like second and third. You know, Trevor's Han Solo, right?
Yeah, well,
swashbuckling, drunk.
like drunk Han Solo. But they flesh out a lot of the vampires a lot in this. So, Dracula can't do it alone. He pulls all the vampires together, and there's, basically there's dissension in the ranks.
Yes, there's like 3 queens essentially, I think, in the second season. And all of them are terrible. All of them do horrible, incredible stuff. But you are interested. Yes, that is the move. That I hope we're going that direction with that and the Mario Brothers movie and
upcoming Zelda.
You know who's always screwing this up? And we didn't talk about it, and we won't talk about it because we got to wrap up. Sonic can't get this right.
At least Sonic got
once.
Sonic got 2 fun movies, I thought.
Sonic Sat AM. That was a thing to watch. Like the hardcore. Can we see Sonic Sat AM, just the intro? Because there were 2 Sonic shows on at the same time, and one was going for it, and people still think about it to this day and watch it. That intro is fun. And it was, him and his friends, and it was serious, and it was like a dark streak. And then there was the other one that looked like a child drew it. And then there was Sonic Boom and a million other things. But this was worth a watch. Okay, your recommendations, Castlevania, that's my recommendation, is watch Sonic Sat AM. I think it only was like 10 episodes. It was on a different network than the other one. I think it was on CBS. Why was everything on CBS? I feel like it was on CBS.
It's weird. It's where the nerds go.
Yeah.
Star Trek and whatnot.
But it had a scary Robotnik. It had the Freedom Fighters in it. Sonic was doing cool stuff. The rings were a piece of lore. Very interesting. And you could just see effort. I think that's what we want in our video game shows ultimately, right?
Effort, a little bit of imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm just seeing. This is like it's not just the games. Like they pulled a lot of fleshing out.
Mm-hmm. And it had the intro song. We can't put it up or we'll get pulled, but watch the intro song as soon as you're done with this. It is so great. Just great. And we think you're great.
You're awesome.
So we want to thank you all for watching another episode of Tubby Talk and hanging out with us and talking video games. We miss Steve. He'll be back soon, of course.
Yes.
But we're having such fun here making this type of content for you. So please have conversations with us. Tell us in the comments what your favorite, Nintendo or animated video game shows were. We'd love to comment on it and have a conversation with you. But watch Netflix is what we got out of this. Castlevania on Netflix is definitely number 1. But thanks for a wonderful childhood.
Yeah. Thanks, TV.
And Deke.
Eek.
YUNKJunk!